reality of you. He had called you in Christ since the foundation of the world, and at a moment in time, he called you into existence. Here and now, for the specific challenges and problems and issues that would confront us today. If you don't think you were made for greatness, look around. The need for greatness has never been greater. I want to close with just this sense of where I think we are in the history of the world. This is not a prophecy about the end times. It's not at all. It's a prophecy about the here and now, if it's a prophecy about anything. It is my attempt to read into the signs of the times. Here's what I see. Let me begin with what Patrick shared earlier. I'm going to talk about birth control. I'm going to talk about it in 20 seconds. I want to share a story first. In the Old Testament, how long did it take Moses to lead the Israelites into the Promised Land? No. Took him 3 months. He got to the Promised Land in 3 months, and he's standing there on the bank of the River Jordan, and he sends a group of spies in, 12 spies, one for each tribe. The 12 spies go in, and they spy out the land, and they come back, and 2 of the spies say, oh, it's everything Moses said, that God said. I mean, it's amazing. Milk and honey. Look at this cluster of grapes. Took 2 of us to carry 1 cluster of grapes back because they're so abundant. I've never seen anything like this. This land is the Promised Land. And they were very excited, and the 10 said, yeah, but those guys aren't telling you everything. And Moses isn't either. It's also filled with giants, and they hate us. And if we try to go in there, they're going to kill us. And the 2 spies said, well, they're telling the truth, but they're not telling all the truth either. And that is, God has given us the land, and he said he would drive them out. So we should trust God, and we not do it. And so in the first exercise of democracy and majority report in biblical history, the 10 spies outweighed the 2 spies, and the people went to God and prayed, said, Moses, please tell God not to make us go into the Promised Land. Be careful what you pray for. Because they went to Moses, and Moses heard their intercession, and God said, they don't want to go in the Promised Land? All right, get what you want. None of you are going to the Promised Land. You're all going to drop dead out here in the desert the next 39 years, and I'll bring your kids in. Of the adults, there were over 800,000 adults who walked through the Red Sea. Of the adults, how many of them made it into the Promised Land? 2. The 2 good spies, Joshua and Caleb. All right, back to birth control. A generation ago, Pope Paul VI said, I want to welcome you into the new world. I want to welcome you into the new evangelization. I want you to be a people of life and of love. Would you please do it? And the birth control group got together and said, that's just, this teaching is outdated. It's too hard. The modern world won't allow us to be open to life. We're not going to do it. There were 2 on the commission who said, no, no, no. There were others who joined them later, but 2 initially. Do you know who the loudest proponent of life and love was on that commission, organized by John the 23rd and then led by Paul VI? It was a Polish bishop by the name of Karol Wojtyła. And when it was his turn, he's leading the next generation in. Launched World Youth Days and has issued a call across the world that is changing the way we experience. Not it's changing the experience for most of the baby boomers. We got a lot of work to do there. There are many exceptions, thanks be to God, but it is a generation that has struggled in its fidelity to God. Okay, let's back up the bus to another issue. There's an interesting pattern that occurs in biblical history. Satan can't read the future. He has no idea what the future holds. None except for what God has revealed. So most of it he doesn't know. But he's really, really, really smart. And so he can figure stuff out really, really, really well. So when God's getting up to something, the devil can kind of figure out he's up to something, and he always kind of pulls out all the stops and goes after it. Let me give you an example. Cain and Abel. The devil inspires Cain to kill Abel. Got a good son who's faithful to Adam and Eve, take him out. That's not a really great example. Let me give you a better example. When the Jews were getting ready to leave Egypt, they were supposed to be enslaved for 400 years. At the end of that 400-year period of time, Moses was going to be born. And God knew, but Satan was guessing that something was up. So what did he do? He inspired Pharaoh to kill all of the Hebrew male children. And he killed a bunch of them. But he missed Moses. And Moses came of age, and he led the people to freedom. Okay, run the clock forward. At the birth of Jesus Christ, Satan knew something was up. Prophecies were clear that the time of Christ was at hand. And Herod, inspired by Satan, killed the holy innocents, and he killed many, many, many innocent children. But Jesus got away. Jesus got away. And he became the Savior of the world. Brothers, never in the history of the world have more young children been attacked and murdered than have been in our lifetime. Satan is so freaked out by this next generation that he has pulled out all the stops so that from the moment of their would have been conception to their time in their mother's womb, to the time in the broken homes, to the time in the troubled culture, he has done everything. There is no point in history any time since the coming of Christ that it has been more difficult to try to remain true to God and know that. And you know what? He will never triumph. Satan will never, he will try, and he will wreak unbelievable havoc. But God will triumph, and he'll triumph in his people. It is our responsibility, those of you who are seasoned with gray hair, to get out in front of this generation and lead them and care for them and show them the way. We learn by modeling. That's how you learned how to talk. It's how you learned how to walk. It's how you learn how to do almost everything that's most fundamental to you. And we live in a culture with no role models. There are so few heroes. We've replaced them with celebrities. False heroes. The world is waiting for you to stand up and be a hero. I don't know how to be a hero. That's why you got to go back to that prayer. That's why you got to go back to those gatherings. I'm going to close with a simple process. And it'll lead to the third challenge. A simple process of how to do this. First, you need momentum. Much easier to balance on a bicycle if you're actually rolling. So you need momentum. So pick some area in life that you think needs to be helped. And then just start. Well, I don't know how to do it. Great. Second point, find some other guys. And start to problem solve. You would do this in business, right? Oh, I don't know how we're going to solve this problem. What are you going to do? I'm going to gather the smartest people I know, and we're going to figure out how to solve this problem. And if you're good at it, you make a lot of money. We do this in business for money. Why would we not do this in life for souls? And to sit back and say, I'm going to get some guys together, and this is the simplicity of this. I'm going to give you a model of simplicity that everybody in this room can do. It's so simple and so powerful. Just get 2 or 3 guys. 2 or 3 guys. More is okay. A lot more is not necessary. And just start to plan and pray and think about what you could do. Maybe you'll meet in larger groups like this from time to time, but just smaller groups is fine. If more is okay. Jesus was the God of the universe. He picked 12. So big numbers are not necessary. And begin to pray and to think and to problem solve. How are we going to address these? How are we going to put an end to pornography? Here is a lie from hell. There's no such thing as a happy prostitute. All women in prostitution from the history of the world are slaves. Every time you're tempted to look at pornography, you're participating in the slavery. It's terrible. There's somebody's sister, there's somebody's daughter. We got to fix this. We got to go after this. I don't care which one you go after. So here's the power of gathering the small number. Jesus picked 12. I'm encouraging you to pick 3. But think about this for a second. This is what we call on the college campus spiritual multiplication. Think about this for a second. Imagine that I was given the gift, or anybody in the room was given the gift to be a super evangelist. A super evangelist. Let's say a super evangelist, we'll define them as somebody who could reach 1 million people a year with the gospel of Jesus Christ. And everybody that they spoke to, or at least 1 million of them, they spoke maybe more, but 1 million people every year gave their lives to Christ, started practicing the Catholic faith, and died and went to heaven. That would be so cool. That'd be so. Here's the problem with that gift. As far as I can tell, only one person in the history of the world's ever had that gift. Pope John Paul II. I can't find anybody before him, and there hasn't been anybody since him that's been able to do that. 1 million people a year, and he only did it for about 20 years. Here's the second problem with that. More than 1 million people are born every year. You're not even keeping pace with the birth rate. Here's another problem with that. You know how hard it is to do that? You know how gifted and skilled This is how smart John Paul was. I have a friend who was friends with John Paul. He grew up in his parish when they were parish priests and stayed close to him his entire life. John Paul was godfather to both of their sons. And every summer they would go and spend 6 weeks in Castel Gandolfo, the summer residence of the Pope, with the Pope. And one of the things they would do during the 6 weeks is they would help him study. Other people would do it the rest of the year, but his friends would help him during the vacation. The Pope would study an hour to 2 every day. The way that he would study, he would grab a book and he would start to read, and then somebody would sit next to him and read another book out loud to him. Sometimes not even in the same languages. He had 100% retention of both books. Every day, an hour to 2, every day of his entire adult life. How many people can do that? What is the matter with you? Patrick's the only guy? What are you, a bunch of dead bears? I can't even get it. It's unbelievable. No, you've got to be a freak of nature to pull that off. A really good freak of nature, don't get me wrong, but that's just, you can't build a system around that kind of gifting. You can't do it. There aren't that many people. It's like Steve Martin's 10 steps to becoming a millionaire. Step 1, get $1 million. Okay, you can pull that off, that's great. So here's the deal. Imagine instead that I just worked with the 2 of you guys, and we were for a whole year. And the next year, both of you guys went off and found 2 guys, and you started to work with them. For a whole year. At the end of 2 years, what's the score? Super evangelist has how many? The super evangelist, 2 million. Our little band of brothers over here, 5. We're getting toasted. Does it get better the next year? Oh, then those 4 go get 2 more. That's 8. Plus 4 plus, we're approaching 24, but it's 3 million. Here's the amazing thing that begins to happen, though. See, there's nothing truly amazing. Anybody can go find 2 people and start to invest. You got the Catechism of the Catholic Church, you got the Bible, you got church teachings and other people you can talk to. Anybody can do this. With a little bit of training, you can do this. And so it's starting to grow, but it's growing what, guys? For those of you in banking, it's growing exponentially. Something amazing happens in the 25th year. For those of you who are math majors, after 25 years, how many people has their super evangelist reached? 25 million. You guys are bright. It is awesome. And how about the little group over here, 25 years in? 33 million. Guess what? Next year, 33 million more. Just 1 million more. 3 years, 33 million to 8 billion with a B. We actually do not have enough people on earth. We have to start having more children. Now, some of you are sitting back saying, well, this is just multi-level marketing applied to Christianity. No, nothing could be further from the truth. Multi-level marketing is Christianity applied to sales. Not only that, there's another difference. Multi-level marketing involves an exchange of goods and services. So here's the deal. Got a $10 bill. If I give you a $10 bill, you have a $10 bill, and I no longer have, you had a chance. And guess what? When I give you my $10 bill, I no longer have a $10 bill. But if I share the truth with you, did I lose it? No, you can't lose spiritual goods. In fact, the only way you can lose a spiritual good is by not sharing it. If I don't share the truth, I'll think less of the truth. If I don't share love, I grow cold in love. Gentlemen, I want to encourage you to step into a process, a biblical process. Jesus was God. He picked 12. But even in those 12, he picked 3, Peter, James, and John, that he invested even more heavily. This is my final assignment for you. I'd like you to find 3 guys. I gave you an example of 2, getting 2, and in 33 years you reached 8 billion people. I'd like to invite you to get 3. Why? Well, the program works at 2. The problem is people don't work. And so you have burnout. By getting 3, every once in a while somebody says, I don't want to do this anymore. You still have 2. And so I want to encourage you right now, last assignment, 3